Alex never existed, but every single economic and physical constraint he faced was brutally real. Imagine a thought experiment. What if an ambitious entrepreneur had tried to drop a modern, Amazon-style business model into ancient Rome? Rome in the 1st century AD was one of the most densely populated urban centers in the ancient world. In a city of perhaps 1 million people, residents were packed tightly into a vertical maze of stone and wooden apartment buildings called insulae, connected by thousands of miles of imperial highways. To a modern business mind, this looks like the ultimate market opportunity. High consumer density, massive demand for olive oil, grain, and wine, and a unified national transport network. So Alex does what any modern founder would do. He sets up a business, secures an audience with imperial market officials, hires a fleet of heavy ox carts, establishes a warehouse near the seaport of Ostia, and issues a guarantee that shakes the city. 2-day guaranteed delivery to any doorstep in Rome. 48 hours later, his modern playbook doesn't just fail, it collapses into complete operational disaster. To understand why Alex failed, you have to look at the unforgiving economic math of ancient transport. When a modern supply chain manager looks at Rome's paved highways, they see an infrastructure marvel. When an ancient merchant looked at them, they saw a capital-destroying cost trap. Evidence from Roman-era price data, including the later Price Edict of Diocletian, reveals a startling reality. Overland transport in the Roman world was astronomically expensive. Moving a wagon load of grain just 75 miles overland could double its cost, effectively matching the value of the cargo itself. In contrast, shipping that same cargo across the Mediterranean Sea by merchant vessel cost a small fraction of land transport. Moving goods by land wasn't an efficiency engine, it was a severe financial penalty. Picture a single day in Alex's initial operation. To deliver 20 heavy ceramic amphorae of Spanish olive oil from Ostia into central Rome, his driver faces a grueling battle against friction. A pair of oxen could move a heavily loaded wagon at a painfully slow pace. Every single day, those draft animals consumed massive amounts of expensive feed, draining Alex's cash reserves before a single order was fulfilled. Worse still, ancient roads were built for heavy infantry legions, not cushioned freight. Without rubber tires or mechanical shock absorbers, every mile of rough road increased the risk of breakage, leakage, and total inventory loss. Liquid inventory bled out onto the cobblestones long before reaching the city gates. And then came the regulatory wall. Rome street congestion was so severe that laws going back to Julius Caesar restricted heavy commercial wheeled vehicles from entering the city center during daylight hours. Alex's cart fleet was legally forbidden from operating when his customers were awake. To fulfill his delivery promises, his drivers were forced to enter the pitch-black Roman night. They pushed creaking wooden wheels through narrow, unlit alleys packed with mud, sewage, and crime. To deliver a single jar to a top-floor apartment, a worker had to haul a 70-pound ceramic vessel up 6 flights of shaky wooden stairs in a creaking insula. Mules broke their legs in drain gutters, crates were stolen in the dark, and drivers were mugged. Alex wasn't building a monopoly. He was watching his capital bleed out into the Roman streets. Standing in his empty warehouse in Ostia, staring at mounting debt ledgers and shattered inventory, Alex realizes a fundamental truth. He has to stop applying 21st century assumptions and start working within ancient realities. He abandons land ox carts for long-distance transit entirely. Instead, he turns to the Tiber River. Alex acquires a fleet of flat-bottomed wooden river barges known as codocarii. Instead of fighting rough road traffic, these barges are towed upstream along the riverbanks by teams of oxen walking the paths, gliding smoothly into Rome with far less vibration and far less risk of shattered cargo. By substituting overland carting with river transport, Alex slashes his primary freight cost overnight. But river barges cannot navigate narrow city streets. How do you solve the last mile when heavy carts are banned during the day? Alex bypasses vehicles altogether and taps into Rome's informal labor market, professional porters and transport workers known as sicari. During the day, while commercial wagons are locked out of the city center, hundreds of human porters carry smaller, standardized loads through streets far too narrow or steep for wheels. They maneuver through dense crowds, climb steep insula stairwells, and drop off deliveries directly at neighborhood corner shops and residential courtyards. With river barges feeding goods into the city and human porters handling neighborhood distribution, Alex hits a new wall: storage, organization, and tracking. In the ancient world, a typical warehouse was little more than a dark, chaotic room where merchants piled sacks and jars until they rotted or were stolen. To maintain speed, Alex needs an ancient precursor to a modern fulfillment center. He leases space inside the massive stone walls of the Harea Galbay near the Tiber docks. But instead of dumping cargo in piles, Alex introduces strict physical organization. High-demand staples like wheat and cooking oil are staged right at the riverbank loading bays for rapid turnover. Expensive imported luxuries like fine wines or textiles are stored in secure inner chambers guarded by private watchmen. Rather than relying on memory, his clerks implement a rigorous physical logging system, using color-coded clay tokens and papyrus ledgers. When a river barge docks, workers log every amphora by weight, merchant origin, and quality mark. This creates something even more valuable than physical efficiency: an information advantage. Alex doesn't just know where his goods are. He knows which neighborhoods consume the most oil, which merchants pay on time, which routes face congestion, and which warehouses are running low. His competitors knew what they owned. Alex knew what the entire city was consuming. He builds an early precursor to a data moat. When a customer orders 10 jars of wine, the warehouse workers know its exact location, allowing porters to load and dispatch the shipment in minutes rather than hours. Yet, despite this operational efficiency, Alex faces a silent financial killer: cash flow volatility. Physical coinage in the ancient world, silver denarii and heavy bronze coins, was scarce, heavy to move, and risky to handle in large quantities. Demanding cash payment upon delivery created massive delays at the doorstep, exposed porters to robbery, and led to high transaction failure rates. This drives Alex to construct what looks surprisingly like a subscription-like business model. He steps away from low-margin retail sales to the poor and targets Rome's wealthy elite: senators, wealthy landowners, and large insula landlords. He offers them a contract: pay a fixed, upfront fee every month. In exchange, their estates receive a guaranteed, priority weekly delivery of high-grade olive oil, wine, and wheat flour delivered directly to their storage vaults. To understand why wealthy Romans accept this, you have to understand ancient vulnerability. Winter storms made Mediterranean shipping far riskier and less predictable, a period of dangerous and restricted winter sailing often described by the term mare clausum. During these months, food prices fluctuated wildly, and even the wealthy faced supply uncertainty. Alex isn't just selling olive oil, he is selling certainty. For the Roman elite, it means guaranteed supply security during harsh winters. For Alex, it provides predictable, upfront working capital. Wealthy subscribers pay him months in advance, giving him the liquid capital needed to buy wholesale harvests in bulk long before his competitors can afford to. With subscription capital flowing in, Alex builds a formidable competitive moat around his logistics network through 3 strategic moves. First, he secures midstream storage. Alex uses his capital to acquire long-term leases on keystone Harea warehouses along the Tiber docks. Physical storage near the water is the ultimate bottleneck. If a competing merchant cannot secure dockside storage, their imported grain sits exposed on riverbanks under the sun. Second, he locks in labor. Rather than competing blindly for day laborers, Alex builds long-term relationships with the leadership of local porter guilds and transport associations, offering them reliable, continuous work in exchange for priority service during peak shipping seasons. Third, he secures regulatory privileges. Alex cultivates ties with local market overseers and municipal officials, securing official permits, legal exemptions, and priority docking rights at public river wharves. But a monopoly does not emerge in a vacuum. Rival merchant guilds begin to fight back. Competitors try to outbid Alex for porter wages during harvest spikes. Independent warehouse owners double their rent demands. Rumors circulate in the forums that Alex is hoarding olive oil to drive up prices. To defend his moat, Alex is forced to adapt. He transitions from a pure innovator into a ruthless monopolist, offering profit-sharing incentives to guild leaders, using his cash reserves to buy out struggling rivals, and leveraging his political influence with officials to protect his docking privileges. By absorbing these attacks, Alex's monopoly becomes fully visible. He controls the river barge capacity, dockside storage, last-mile porter network, and market information. He is extracting immense economic rents from the ancient capital's supply chain. Every rival he absorbed made his network more efficient and made Rome more dependent on him. And that is precisely when he transitions from a successful entrepreneur to a political target. During normal years, Alex's network is simply profitable, but during a crisis, his dominance becomes terrifying. A severe drought strikes the Mediterranean basin, followed by a season of violent storms that disrupt grain ships from Egypt and Africa. Supplies tighten across Italy, and food prices spike in the markets. In a city of perhaps 1 million people, a major food shortage could quickly become a political crisis. The Roman imperial state operated under one paramount political imperative: keep the urban population fed to prevent mass starvation, riots, and civil war. In the middle of this panic, imperial officials realize something unprecedented. Alex's warehouses hold a significant share of the city's food and oil distribution. Because of his detailed tracking ledgers, Alex knows exactly how much grain is left in Rome before the market overseers do. He knows which districts are running dangerously low, and his private network decides which customers receive priority deliveries. For the first time, Emperor Trajan and his advisors realize a terrifying political reality. The food supply of Rome is no longer controlled entirely by the state. Alex had not become a criminal. He had become a strategic dependency. The better Alex became at logistics, the more politically dangerous he grew. Emperor Trajan does not destroy Alex because his business failed. He destroys Alex because his business succeeded too well. In our hypothetical timeline, the emperor has no interest in preserving Alex's private empire. The imperial response is swift and absolute. Imperial guards march to the Tiber docks. Under the authority of imperial confiscation, every stone Heraea warehouse leased by Alex is seized by the state. Armed soldiers place official imperial seals across the storage doors. The last-mile porter network Alex organized is forcibly integrated into the state-run Annona administration, the Imperial Grain Bureau. Alex is brought before imperial officials and given a cold reality check. His private network now belongs to the Roman state. He is offered a choice: accept a modest administrative role as a government official running his former network for a fixed state salary, or face execution and total asset forfeiture for economic sabotage. Overnight, Alex's high-margin enterprise is absorbed into the machinery of the state. The story of a hypothetical Roman Amazon reveals an economic pattern that may be surprisingly familiar across human history. High-capital physical networks tend to create midstream bottlenecks, and whoever controls those bottlenecks can capture enormous economic rent. But the more essential that bottleneck becomes to public survival, the harder it becomes for the sovereign state to leave it entirely in private hands. Ancient Rome did not lack market spirit or commercial talent. It lacked the mechanical energy density, fossil fuels, electricity, and combustion engines required to make land transport cheap enough for private enterprise to scale independently. The Roman state played a central role in building and maintaining major roads and aqueducts, and it ultimately retained enormous power over who could use critical infrastructure and under what conditions. Today, 2,000 years later, the underlying economic pattern remains strikingly similar. Ancient Roman highways are today's undersea fiber optic cables. Ancient stone Heraea warehouses are today's AWS and Google Cloud data center campuses. Rome's grain supply is today's electricity grid, semiconductor supply chain, and AI compute infrastructure. Ancient Rome had grain bottlenecks. Modern economies have energy bottlenecks. The internet has bandwidth bottlenecks. AI has compute bottlenecks. In every case, the question remains identical: who controls the infrastructure everyone else depends on? When a private company controls the bottleneck that society cannot live without, is it still just a business, or has it become infrastructure? Because once a business becomes infrastructure, the rules of business change.